Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with Inside the U. Today was the first day of spring practices for the Miami Hurricanes. I want to bring to you 10 takeaways I have from doing interviews with the 4 players that they made available. That's Amari Carter, Corey Gaynor, Bubba Bolden, and Mike Harley. All 4 of them had interesting things to say about what went on at practice today and also some players that are impressing them. So I want to get to that. Again, we'll make this fairly quick, but I'm going to go 10 takeaways, tidbits, whatever you might call it. First off, let's start with Tyler Van Dyke, quarterback, steps into that top spot in the quarterback room with D'Eriq King injured. Peyton Matoka is there as well as Jake Garcia and walk-on Ryan Rizek, so certainly other guys are in the mix, but Tyler Van Dyke was kind of the topic of conversation today because he moves up the depth chart. He was the number 3 last year. So the biggest things that were standing out to me based on the conversations that the players were having with the media was they really liked his toughness. They thought he had a good day of practice. And he's just one of those guys that understands what to do when he gets into the plays and also understands the playbook pretty well. So I think those are a good start, good first day for Tyler Van Dyke. Again, based on things we're hearing and not being able to be out there. But other takeaways from the first day of practice is Tyrique Stevenson, defensive back from Georgia, going to play corner at Miami. And Bubba Bolden mentioned that he felt like Tyrique brings a level of a sense of playing at Georgia, good experience, played at a top program. He thinks that's very good for the group of defensive backs, and also felt like Tyrique has a good football mindset and mentality, really understands the game well. Once again, that's very good for not just the returning starters, but also the young guys, to see a guy like Tyrique that's been playing for a couple years and things he can bring to the table as a defensive back that has experience and done different things at the collegiate level already. Offensive lineman Navon Donaldson is looking the best that he's ever looked, according to Corey Gaynor, who has played multiple years with Donaldson. That's a good sign for Miami. Donaldson, coming off the year where he was injured most of the season last year, figures to play some guard at Miami, looking to get his starting spot back. I do think that will happen, but I think it's going to take a little bit of time. But so far, so good. Everything's good with Donaldson, and how he's looking. Gaynor, when I asked him about maybe some specifics, he didn't go into detail with it, but just the fact that he said he's looking very good, I think is a positive sign because, again, Donaldson missed most of last year, played towards the end briefly, but everything, hearing these things about how he's looking good in spring ball already is a good sign, and hopefully that continues because, once he gets a week or 2 under his belt, I think he's going to really shine, and that'll be a good sign for the offensive line, which Coach Manny Diaz has mentioned it's going to be very competitive this spring. Mike Harley stands out to me as another takeaway. Some tidbits about Mike. He's up to 183 pounds, 8% body fat, which are both good signs for Mike. He's also really talking to the offensive staff that what it takes to be a professional receiver, wants to be even better than he's been. Coming off the good year last year, led the team in receiving, wants to do better, wants to be able to do even more. Another thing that Mike's doing is he's gone up to Georgia in the Atlanta area again this offseason. He did this last year, but basically he's got some family in the area. But one of the things he's been working on just in this offseason is he really wants to become a better route runner. With that, he's really working on some indicators, trying to avoid some things off the line. And just basically, he said, just trying to get open. That's really the main job for a receiver, get open and catch the ball. So he's working on those 2 things, and he's putting a lot of effort into it. And I think that's a good sign for Mike, who once again had a good season last year, but certainly not resting on that. And he's continuing to work, and that's a big takeaway to me, because I think Mike is one of those guys that's a leader on the team, and when you see those kind of performances and his attention to detail to improvement, I think it only helps the group of receivers, which there are 12 on campus right now for the spring, very competitive. And I'll stick with the number, for the number 5 takeaway, I'll stick with the wide receiver position at Charleston Rambo, Oklahoma transfer. Mike was asked about his impressions of Rambo, and the biggest thing that he said was his speed. So he really likes his speed, thinks he's a good all-around receiver. One of the things that stood out to me, though, Mike did mention that maybe Charleston's having a little bit difficult time transitioning from Texas to Florida with the heat and the weather, so that's something to watch for. But we've seen this with other players as they get used to South Florida heat and things like that, but it doesn't become an issue for most guys once they get past this initial stages. So look for that with Rambo, but again, the speed is there, all-around receiver, but once again, he's in a tight competition with a lot of different guys that are looking for playing time. especially those 4 freshman wide receivers who are ones to watch in the group this spring. Amari Carter is back for another year, 16 starts the last 2 seasons. He said he's up about 10 pounds and he's at 10% body fat percentage, which is the highest he's been. However, even though those numbers are higher, he feels good about it in the sense that it's not a bad thing, and he's actually been taking some classes on nutrition and things like that. So he's certainly paying attention, and certainly 10% is not high whatsoever. It just gives him a little bit more bulk in that back end at safety, and gives him a little bit more ability with his tackling, you would think, with his strength and things like that. So those are things with Amari. Also, I asked Amari specifically about some of the changes with the new defensive back coaches in the secondary, and he said there's some defensive back drills that they've really been working on with the 1-line, 2-line drills, really working on footwork is a main emphasis right now in the spring. Basically getting in and out of the breaks on their turns and things like that, doing some different weave concepts as well. Once again, working on turning the hips, and that's certainly important for safeties and corners. Both positions in the secondary can certainly be better at that. And that's certainly a big thing in terms of turning and running, and also changing directions in the field, in the open field, as they look to make open field tackles. So that's a very good thing that they're doing. And also Bubba Bolden did mention too that there are some differences with Coach T. Rob, a defensive backs coach, stepping in for safeties coach Ephraim Banda, who's off to Utah State. But basically just said they're both great in their own right, and that they just do things a little bit different. But he really credited Banda for his development, and he's really enjoying working with T-Rob. And one thing he mentioned with T-Rob is he's been sending safeties to the NFL, and Bubba's certainly looking to be the next safety that Coach Robinson teaches that goes on to the NFL. So those are some things with the defensive backs that stood out to me. Once again, one of these 10 takeaways as we keep it going. Okay, the mentality of the team over the offseason has been one with a lot of veterans back. They've been very competitive during their accountability teams. So what that is they go from, whether it's from classes, they go off to practices, whether it's their schedules, with their meetings, their mat drills and things like that. All different kinds of things go into this accountability team, and you have some leadership. They're basically small groups within the team, and a leader does emerge from that group. But basically, the players and teams get points based on how they do in all of these certain things. Tyler Van Dyke was a guy that got credited heavily by Manny Diaz for being one of those guys that just seems to excel in all of those things that they've been working on. And Bubba Bolden felt like this is good for the team, for the competition, because it basically just keeps the competition going no matter what they're doing, whether it's on the field or off. But basically, they're always competing towards getting these points. So I think that's a good thing as well. The competition at linebacker is another takeaway I have. I think we're at number 9, but I've kind of lost track. But competition at linebacker, Amari Carter mentioned it, and just felt like he's seeing a lot of competition, and it's really at all positions on the team. But at linebacker in particular, because there's new coaches in there, with Patke going from basically an outside strikers coach to the inside linebackers coach, and then they bring in Ishmael Aristide as kind of the strikers outside linebackers coach. So new coaches, a lot of players looking to step in and compete for playing time. I think it's going to be one of those interesting positions, because I think it's a position not only with guys coming back, but you've got some young guys in there looking to make their case for more playing time. Not only that, with roster depth chart and things like that, but basically that's a group that really needs to improve in the offseason. Spring's going to be big for that group without a doubt. So I think that's a good sign. And kind of sticking with Corey Gaynor, or going back to him, personally, he's up about 11 pounds, so that's another good thing. And I think that's something that we're seeing with the strength program. Manny Diaz touched on it a little bit last week, just with the off-season weight training program from last year. It felt like it was kind of interrupted a little bit, not just with what happened with COVID, but basically they want a full 7 weeks of that weight training program so they get the results that they're looking for. And I think they're really looking to improve their strength and size. And I know that's always a point of emphasis, but sometimes it's speed and quickness and those kind of things, or maybe it's trimming down a little bit. But basically, I do feel like the size stuff, you're going to start to hear that kind of across the board, particularly on the offensive line and defensive line. But that's good that Gaynor's up a little bit, adds a little bit more weight there in the center. But again, he's still that leader that they have on the line. And I think basically on the list, I ran through all 10 takeaways. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. Maybe we'll keep doing this every day. Just a quick recap of the day. Coaches are made available to the media, and so are the players. So I'll just kind of give a quick rundown, but certainly for all of your information, more in-depth coverage, go to InsideTheU.com for plenty of articles. And if you want more of the videos, the interview of the players, certainly stay locked in on the InsideTheU YouTube channel. And if you haven't yet, you can hit the like button on this video, but also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any coverage of the Hurricanes. So that's 10 takeaways, first day of spring practice. Thanks for watching and take care.